Welcome. I'm Dave Creer from the IBM Black Belt Daffy team, here to show you how to register a new domain name and configure your domain in IBM's Cloud Internet Service. I am doing this in preparation for an OpenShift deployment on IBM Cloud, leveraging the OpenShift IPI installer. Use of the Cloud Internet Service, or sometimes referred to as CIS, is a Red Hat requirement to deploy OpenShift on IBM Cloud using the installer provisioned infrastructure method. Here we have the big picture outlining the 4 steps you would take to configure your IBM Cloud environment for an OpenShift IPI deployment. We are going to focus on how to complete steps 1, 2, and 3 in this video. There are lots of places you can register domain names, such as GoDaddy, Domain.com, Bluehost, as well as IBM Cloud. Companies that allow you to buy domain names are referred to as domain name registrars. We will be using IBM Cloud, more specifically the domain name registration service within IBM Cloud, as our domain name registrar for this demo. Just note that these same steps will work for any registrar you choose. I have logged into the IBM Public Cloud and will navigate to the Domain Name Registration menu item under the Classic Infrastructure. Here is where you can purchase a domain name, but first you need to check the availability of the domain. If available, you can proceed and purchase your domain. As you can see, I have a number of domain names already, so I'm not going to purchase a new one. I'm going to use one that I already own. Now that I have a domain, I can see that by default, it's using the IBM SoftLayer name servers. I'm going to need to update that in the next step, so I will unlock the domain. Here, in the second step, I will provision a new Cloud Internet Service and delegate the management of my domain to this service. In this case, the term delegate is referring to the management of the domain. To do this, I will need to have the domain unlocked, which I did in the previous step. It's important to note that when you configure the CIS service, you will need to make sure to use the exact name of your domain. You will need to provision an instance of the Internet Services service if you do not already have one. You can find this service simply by searching for Internet Services in the Cloud Catalog. I already have one, so I don't need to provision a new one. You can select the plan that meets your needs. I chose the Enterprise Usage Plan for my instance. For the third step, I will delegate my domain to the CIS instance. During this process, I will identify the name servers that my CIS instance has assigned to the domain. Then, I will need to go back into my domain name registration service and update the name servers to the CIS assigned name servers. By doing this, I'm delegating my domain lookup to the CIS name servers. Once complete, my domain will use the DNS configuration I set in the CIS instance. The CIS Internet Service can manage multiple domains. As you can see, I already have a domain associated, so I'll be adding a new domain to my service. You will need to make sure that you provide the exact name of your domain when adding it to this service. During the setup process, you'll be presented with name servers that have been assigned to your CIS instance. Take note of these name servers. We will need them in the next step. You'll also notice that our domain has a status of pending. This will turn active once we finish the next step. I will now navigate back to my domain name registration service and update the name servers to point to the CIS name servers that were assigned to my domain within the CIS service. The domain does need to be unlocked before you can make any edits to the name servers. Be sure to lock it once you've made the necessary updates. Now, I will return to my CIS Internet service and check the status of my domain. If your domain is still in a pending status, check to see if there's a button labeled Complete Setup on your screen. If so, follow the instructions to complete the setup. If you do not see any indication that you need to finish the configuration and your status is still pending, you may need to allow for some more time for it to actually activate. When it's complete, it will show a status of active. Now that you have the base domain properly configured, these are the environment variables you will need to set to deploy OpenShift on IBM Cloud using the IPI method.